So let's see here. Okay, so I'm just gonna get started then.
Sure.
All right. So welcome to our next podcast. Unfortunately, Dugan, our all-star, was not able to join us today, but so you're stuck with me today. We have a wonderful guest. Especially like a very timely and relevant documentary. So Laura, would you please introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about your film?
Okay, I'm Laura Paglin, and I'm the director of No Umbrella, Election Day in the City. And I guess to summarize the film, I would say it is a 2004 example of voter suppression. We're dealing with a lot of voter suppression today, so I think this film is relevant. And for those who haven't really experienced voter suppression, it's kind of puts you right on this, right into it. So it basically takes place at one polling location in the state of Ohio, in Cleveland, Ohio, which was what do you call it? Oh, sorry. Okay. So anyway, we'll start this again. So anyway, it takes place in Cleveland, Ohio, at a single voting location. And if you recall, Ohio has been, and probably still is, a swing state. So this election was very important. It was a presidential election. And you see people just lined up in the rain, just waiting for hours.
Yeah.
So the whole film takes place at this one location.
Yeah, you really feel it's almost a sense of almost claustrophobia, of like it's really intense. It's all around you, and you really, even though it is just one location in one election, it kind of is a bit of a microcosm of all these other issues that are still relevant today. We're getting very close to the 2020 election. And this is, the 2004 election. So, there's been a couple election cycles since then, but still these issues are very relevant. And can you tell us a little bit about what originally called you to make this film?
Well, I'm a skeptical person in general. So people were saying, well, Ohio is going to be the next Florida. And if you remember, in Florida, that was the big deciding state, which held up the 2000 election for months. So they were saying, well, this is gonna, and again, the polling places were overcrowded and people are waiting. So they said, well, that's gonna happen in Ohio as well. And I didn't really believe it, but I thought, well, just in case, I'm gonna go out with my camera. And I was driving around, it was raining and nothing really seemed that unusual. And then I thought I should just check in this one location. And sure enough, it was just complete chaos. So that's really what drew me. It was just kind of curiosity. And then once I was there, I made the decision just to stay there.
Yeah, I mean, so it was kind of almost serendipity. Like you just kind of was there anyone that any leads or tips that made you want to focus on that one specifically, or did you just kind of get a hunch that, oh, this might be where there's going to be some action here today?
It really was serendipity, because you have to realize this was also before social media, and I didn't even really know what was going on in the news. I thought, no, it was just a larger place. I thought, oh, I'll just check. And I asked some people, we were actually not allowed to go in with our cameras. So I asked some people outside, how things were going. I said, oh, it's terrible. You really need to come in. I'm taking pictures. And then they called the local councilwoman, who I'd also never met before. And as you'll see in the film, she is quite an awesome character. I mean, she's this petite, probably under 5 foot tall, 80-year-old African-American councilwoman who's, seen just about everything. And she is dealing with this chaotic situation. So it's the film is also a lot about her, as I would say, she kind of makes the film because she's just incredible character. Councilwoman Fannie Lewis was her name.
Yeah, there really is, like, she's such an interesting character too, considering all the, all the issues that are going on, and how she's just kind of like, it's very interesting to watch her work. And I have and you mentioned that it was, you kind of had to trick people a little bit with your filming. It's very much a kind of a rogue operation a little bit. Back then in your filmmaking career, was this how you generally worked? Like you were, like more of a rebellious filmmaking, like guerrilla filmmaking, or were you more, were you usually more in your content? Did you make more, like have like set interview times and things like that, or is this very, was that more of your style back then?
Well, actually, before that, I had made a full feature film that I spent years on, actors and sets and crazy. And so I had just finished that. And it was really the first year you could get good, for those days anyway, video camera, mini DV had come out recently, and Final Cut Pro hadn't been around too long. So it was really the first year that as a filmmaker, I had access to actually do something on my own. So I was actually, as far as camera, you'll see the camera's kind of, maybe the camera work's not the greatest, but that was really kind of my first time, one of my first times filming. So I guess I wasn't really, I think I wouldn't call it rogue so much as I wasn't really expecting it to be a film. So I just.
Yeah. Yeah, you didn't expect that you were making a documentary that day.
No. Unfortunately, I had just enough tape, and I actually had to call my husband to bring some more tape and some batteries.
Wow. It was a different age back then, huh? Even though, I mean, technically it wasn't that long ago. And I'm sure filmmaking didn't change too much between, let's say, 1990 to 2004. But then between 2004 to now, it's just completely different.
Yeah.
Like I think now generally people don't even film on film anymore. It's more, everything's digital. It's only if you want to just be a purist about it, then if you're doing it for artistic purposes, then you still shoot on film. But generally, it's kind of a lost art. Like no one really does that anymore.
That is true. And we also don't film on tape, which I can't say I miss that much.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, I think when I was, the last time I used tape was, I took an AV class in middle school, and we had these old machines from, I don't even know, they've just been sitting in the school district forever. And, that was technically the first film I ever worked on, put this giant rig on my shoulder, and, I'm like probably, 100 pounds or something at the time, and just taking some video around the school. But yeah, it's kind of, technology has changed so much. Do you feel like if you, do you think a film like this would be easier to make today, or would it be harder? Not only from a technology perspective, but also from just a political perspective. Like, do you feel like this is something that could be done today?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, technically, it would be probably easier, the same. I mean, you still have to get your shots and your story, and the audio is still important, all those things. So I don't think that would be that much different. I would say, actually, aesthetically speaking, it would be very different. You don't see anyone talking on their cell phones there. I mean, imagine, the whole film is people waiting in line, interacting with each other. They're not really aware of what's going on elsewhere if they happen to call somebody. So in a way, I think it would be very different that way. Everybody would probably be filming it, holding their phones up, and so so that would be different. I don't think, as long as you were allowed, I don't think it would be that much different. I just think there'd be a lot more people filming everything.
That's true. It's almost kind of I know I've heard this phrase batted around a lot, but almost like a democratization of documentary filmmaking, or filmmaking in general. Like say if let's say if there was a contested election in Ohio or something on election day, these days everything would be recorded and it would all be uploaded on Twitter or something and Instagram. And you can kind of almost make your own documentary going in, you know, just by like, you consume a little bit here, you get something over here, you hear something over here, and we all kind of make these, I guess, modern documentaries in our heads a little bit just by, I know I do that a lot especially with all the, you know, all the unrest going on these days, like, you know, with all the protests and everything, it's very easy to go in and almost get this very raw, on the ground documentary footage. And especially because cameras are so good on phones these days, you know, and you can capture everything so clearly. It's really, it's really a different, it's almost a different ball game. It's more like you could probably make a decent documentary just getting the rights from random people, never even have to leave your living room, and probably make a decent one that way.
But I mean, that is why with you're making a documentary, it's got to be something special. And I mean, you still can't replace the fact that you do need a story beyond just some a piece of shocking footage. I mean, to make a film, you still need a story, no matter how you put it together. So.
Yeah, there's almost a like, do you feel like for a story like this, especially because it's still so relevant, do you still keep in touch with like groups and organizations that expose voter suppression and things like that? Do you still keep in touch with those kinds of people, or were you kind of a not like an independent, but like, you know, you weren't part of those organizations originally, I'm assuming, when you first made your stuff, but like you just did it on your own? But do you keep in touch with any of those types of organizations to this day, or is it kind of like, I made this film, I told the story, like where are you at now with all this kind of stuff?
Well, I guess I am not really an activist filmmaker. I'm really just more interested in people, like the underdog. I mean, you'll see that Fannie Lewis, the main character, councilwoman, and the people in her ward, pardon me, people in her ward are, you know, they're poor, they're Black, and so I guess you could say as a person, I kind of root for the underdog. But yeah, I don't go out like for some kind of cause, even though as a person, I support a lot of causes and I'm reading about these issues and all of that. But still, my main inclination is for my films to be about the people, to be about characters.
Yeah, which I think is ultimately I mean, I guess this is a little bit more philosophical, but it is more you know, I would agree with you in terms of the responsibility of a filmmaker is more to tell the story than it is to spur people to action. Hopefully it moves people to want to act. But, you know, yeah, exactly. That's more of the point, at least in my mind, than it is to, you know, like it's different than it's almost more establishment, you know, to make it like if like a big NGO, and I used to work a lot with NGOs, so I know a lot about how they work and stuff. And it always feels a little bit, what's the word I'm thinking of? A little bit more, like clean, you know, to do
right. You know, because it's true what you say. In most situations, things are complex. Even in this film, it's never really clear, is this just people screwing up all over the place, you know, just incompetence? Or was it, as it suggested, possibly in the end, a big conspiracy among the Republicans to suppress the electors, and some combination of both? Or so I don't like things to be, you know, this person, this is, you know, this is what happened. And I want the audience to kind of experience and figure out things for themselves, or decide for themselves. I mean, there's nothing wrong. You know, there's no rules in documentary filmmaking. So you can do whatever you want. Just that's my preference as far as story, for it to really be about real situations and people, and not so clean cut.
Yeah, because real life is similar. You know, there is
messy.
Yeah, it's very messy and very complicated, and so it's great to have a a very challenging and nuanced piece, you know, for people to look at. And it doesn't, and it's, it's very, to me, you know, I very enjoy watching it. And, you know, this is a film that all of us on our team are like, oh yeah, we want this one, obviously, because it's still relevant to this day, but also, you know, it's a wonderful story. And we're very excited to share that with a lot of people. So Laura, we're getting close to the end here. I know this was very brief, but we really we wanted people to get a chance to connect with you as a filmmaker and as someone who is creating these wonderful stories to share with people, and very complex, interesting ones. Are you working on anything right now that you would like to let the audience know about, or something? There's something interesting, like a new project or anything? Is there social media you want to plug? You know, anything like that?
Boy, I wasn't really prepared for that answer.
Oh yeah, sorry.
I am working on a new film, which is kind of a polar opposite population, but it takes place in a budget motel in southern Ohio. It's called the Paglin Motel, and it's kind of about desperate people, but probably at a very different end of the political spectrum. And
well, it still sounds exciting, like you know, to hear because those are, you know, these kinds of motels are everywhere, and it's very interesting to hear, like, you know, I mean, I'm sure I could think of a couple things that happened there, but, you know, it'd be interesting to see, like, you know, what's the story behind these motels, because I don't think they originally meant to be they were meant to be what they're perceived as today.
That's true. They weren't meant to, people weren't meant to live in them.
Yeah, so that's actually super exciting. I honestly, that sounds very interesting to me. So I mean, let us know when it's done. I would like to see it. Let's see. Are there any other any other things you would like to say? You know, to our very wide Popdoc audience?
Boy, well, you know, I hope you watch the film, and if you haven't experienced voter suppression, I think if you watch it, this will give you quite an insight. And you know, be sure you go out and vote in November, no matter how hard it is.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Laura. And we're, like I said, we're very happy to have your film on Popdoc, and I hope that we can have many more in the future.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.